The 2026 World Cup kicks off in a week. This is Fútbol Americas alongside Janusz, Herc, and I am Mauricio. We're going to get you ready for the start of the World Cup. We will make our predictions. Everybody makes predictions, different kind of predictions. We will make the most important predictions. So you can also tag along and make your own predictions. That's coming up a little bit later. And a very cool feature about the 1994 U.S. men's national team World Cup squad, how that team came along. You were, Janusz, a big part of that process. Your insights will be very, very helpful. So we have a great show. Let's get things started. Gentlemen, you excited for the World Cup at this point? I feel the excitement in the air, Herc.
I mean, 7 days away.
7 days away. That's it.
That's amazing.
Janusz, you ready?
I'm always ready. I mean, this is
Awesome.
going to be a great one, especially for the United States, I hope. Our team, Herc.
Yes. Emphasize that, please. Emphasize that. All right, let's get things started with the current U.S. men's national team. They will have their last test against Germany on Saturday in Chicago. Big game coming up. When you have a game facing one of the top squads in the world, and I know Germany, they haven't done really well in 2018, 2022, but they basically dominated their qualifiers. They are on a 8-win streak, which is always important, getting to a competition like that. What do you want to see from Pochettino's team on Saturday?
Well, I'd like to see somewhat of a resemblance of what the starting 11 will be. I'd like to see those partnerships that we saw against Senegal continue. The Anthony Robinson, Christian Pulisic, the right center back to Serginho Dest, which is Alex Freeman. I'd like to see if Chris Richards is healthy, how he will be, where he slots in, who slots in next to him. I want to see who's partnering up next to Tyler Adams. That's the most important thing here. I think that position in the center midfield is still up for grabs. I'd like to see Weston McKennie there, and I'd like to see these players playing together. I don't think there's much that we can ask besides that. Just the 20-so months that we've had under Mauricio Pochettino, show us now what you're thinking. I don't think you're showing your cards. I know coaches are afraid to show their cards because Paraguay is going to know what you're playing. I think you should worry about your team, and you should give your players a chance against quality opposition to prove who they are.
Is there one specific player that at this point, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, can play his way into the starting 11?
I don't believe at this stage. I think coaches at this stage have a pretty good idea, bar an injury or something that happens last moment. I think Mauricio Pochettino knows what he's going to do. He better. I mean, he's the manager. He's got to know his best 11, as you've said. And I think, the one thing that I look forward to, it's a real test. Not that Senegal wasn't. I mean, this was an outstanding Senegal team with the front three, sort of the ones that played in the final of African Cup of Nations, right? So there was quality. But I want to see the defensive balance. Because, now all of a sudden we don't worry about going forward. We have, as I mentioned, Ricardo Pepi scoring, club and country. Christian Pulisic coming back to the team where he always scores as well, right? Folarin Balogun is scoring. Haji Wright, we haven't even seen him, but we know he's in tremendous form. But defensively and in a goalkeeper position, this is, I don't want to say the worst we've had, but as average as it gets, right? We normally have one or two top goalkeepers that we don't even talk about. Right now, we don't even know who the starter really is. We have an idea, but we don't know for sure. Chris Richards is not there. If he plays, back three, a lot of issues I saw in that game against Senegal, that if we continue to do that, Germany will take advantage of that before the World Cup even starts, and there may be problems. So I want to see a good balance and a good defensive setup by the team.
I think there's a few things that Mauricio Pochettino has already proven to us because of what he does. The partnerships. We know certain partnerships. We know certain positions. I think the goalkeeper position is one of those. Under Mauricio Pochettino, Matt Freese played 14 of the last 16 games he started. I think that's been put to bed. And if there is a surprise there, then what are you doing? What was all that we just saw?
Yeah.
So I think there's a few things we already know. There's, I think, a few positions that we still don't know. Defensive midfielder, the second 10 next to Pulisic, the partnership with Chris Richards, and the other one is Chris Richards' health.
I want to ask you the same question I asked Janusz. Is there one specific player that you believe can play his way into the starting 11 against Paraguay?
Yeah, I think it's Giovanni Reyna. I don't think Gio Reyna is a starter on this team right now.
Yep.
And he's the player, and given the low block of the team you're going to play, Paraguay, that can slot in and be creative enough in between lines to do something. Right now, he's in the outside looking in. Nobody's going to say he's a starter for this team right now. But he's the one player that I think could be knocking on that door. So this is a game where if you can prove yourself in a setting against players where you feel comfortable enough, because you're a Bundesliga player, if you could do something against a top-flight opponent like Germany, I think that's going to open a lot of eyes and hopefully Mauricio Pochettino's.
I think he needs minutes. We saw that. Physically, he wasn't ready. The first 10 minutes on the right-hand side, I think he contributed. But physically, my goodness, Gio was never fast or quick on the turn, but you could tell that he didn't play a lot of minutes. Malik Tillman came in, and it was like night and day, right? And in terms of physicality, at least early in the tournament, that's going to be important. I'd be shocked to see Gio Reyna as a starter, really shocked. Not that he's not capable, but I think there's always that place to play yourself in the tournament. And of course, maybe if you need a creative players towards the end of games, especially in group stage, right, coming in the second half, when, you know, let's hope you have possession of the ball, you know, he can contribute that. But I think he's going to have to grow within the tournament. He's nowhere near ready to be in the starting lineup.
When you're less than a week away from your World Cup debut as a team, when you face a team like Germany, that's a tough opponent. Where's the line in between facing a team that's going to make things hard for you, or maybe like other nations do, other teams do, facing, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, for an easier team that maybe gives you more confidence before your first game in a World Cup? Janusz?
Well, look, I mean, you know, we'd like to see, you know, the closest to a starting 11, but I think based on what we saw against Senegal, there's going to be always that little bit of a rotation with one or two players, right? I mean, look at Weston McKennie, of course, he'll play. He'll start in the first game against Paraguay. He came in the second half, so you're probably going to see Tyler Adams. I think if he's going to get another 90 minutes, who knows, because you have to manage that, right? But I think we're going to see those two players in the holding, you know, next to each other, a little bit deeper with Weston McKennie going forward. But I don't know if we're going to see our starting team, but, you know, Germany is a real test. And Herc is right. As I've said, I think Mauricio Pochettino knows his starting 11, but there's always those little doubts if you just want to make sure. And I think that's the moment where there will be no surprise, I don't think, but there are choices. There are close choices between some players in terms of tactically. Because, look, I think Paraguay is going to show us something different than Germany. Germany will go and play. These are Germans, right? This is what I want from the national team, that, you know, the games you're supposed to win, you win, right? I watched Germany against Finland. As you've said, they haven't been at their absolute best, but they're slowly but surely getting there, right? And Finland, I'm not saying they're great, but you could see 1-0 first half, and then all of a sudden they turn it on and they got the job done, and it was an easy win. You know, for us, a game against Germany always means something. Even though before the game you may think, let's be careful a little bit, but that's how usually you get injured. So I think there's always a point to prove. And imagine getting a result against Germany. Confidence, great.
Yeah, the confidence would be great. I think most importantly here is that we're almost 20 months out from the time that Mauricio Pochettino was hired. And there may be a realistic possibility that the center midfield that starts in the World Cup will be used for the first time together under Mauricio Pochettino, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams. There's a realistic possibility that that front line is going to be a 9 and 2 10s underneath that have never played with them. And there's going to be a realistic possibility that it may not be Chris Richards in the back line, and it's 2 or 3 center backs that have never played together. It's a possibility that the guy who sits as a right back, whether it's Alex Freeman, has a Serginho Dest in front of him and has been practicing only for 2 games on how to attack and build out in a line of 5 and how to defend in a 4, so to speak. So there's things that, while it looks easy on paper for Mauricio Pochettino to explain, we've never seen it done. So that's what I'd like to see, how they look. 45 minutes. And then it's regroup, new team. You're working to Paraguay. I understand that players don't want to get injured. Nobody wants to miss a World Cup, but John just said it. When you think or when you worry about getting injured, is when you get injured.
I was going to ask you about that exactly, because as a player, 6 days away from the start of the tournament, some of the players know they are going to be starters. Some of the players know that the place is safe. Some of them still want to prove something. Some of them still want to show Mauricio Pochettino that they can be starters. But you don't want to get hurt. How tough is it to play with that in mind?
Well, maybe it's tough for players like a Christian Pulisic, who in his mind he may not think about it, but he's going to be there no matter what. I'm sure Alejandro Sendejas doesn't feel that way. And I'm sure Alejandro Sendejas gets 10 minutes, he's going to kill himself in those 10 minutes. I've been in that position. And being in that position, you could win yourself an opportunity. I had 0 minutes, 0 appearances for the U.S. men's national in 2010. And both of the games in the lead up to the World Cup, both of the games that I came in the brief time, I killed myself and I scored a goal in both games. So now the coaching staff says, well, here's a player that just scored 2 goals in 2 games coming off the bench. Maybe we can use him in that facet. So you can win yourself a position, win yourself a role in these games. Other players are probably worried about their health. I don't think everybody has that luxury.
How much confidence did Mauricio Pochettino get against Senegal in his tactics, in his choice for the starting 11?
Oh, quite a bit. I mean, every game is a test, right? And, speaking of, what the players may or may not do, I think, there's a culture that Mauricio Pochettino wants. He was, let's not forget what sort of player he was and what sort of manager he is, right? I mean, every game matters. And I think that game was important because, A, it was against a quality opponent, as I've mentioned, who played, most of the key players, especially the players up front that were going to ask you questions, and they did. But I think we saw patterns of play. There was a big question in all the games. If you look ahead, I mean, we've complained about a lot of things, a lot of rotation. As Herx has mentioned, we didn't see consistency of lineup for a number of reasons, right? Because some players were injured. Maybe the clubs wouldn't release them, or maybe there's a couple of players, remember, that sort of wanted to rest a little bit. But I think that culture being built in, I think Mauricio Pochettino saw that not only the starting lineup, but the contribution of players that came off the bench, because Senegal came back in this game, right? And all of a sudden, you see another gear. Malik Tillman, that great look, right, on the goal, and Balogun. So I think that's important because we all talk about the starting 11. I'm not as big on that, especially in this World Cup, because the problem with the U.S. team in Qatar was not that we didn't play. We played well, but we played the same team, and we paid the price against Holland. I was commentating in that stadium. Tyler, I mean, a lot of players, Weston McKennie, they ran out of gas. And now you have more rest in between games. That's fair play. But I think in order to win this tournament, you have to play 17, 18, 19, maybe 20 players. And as a manager, to answer your question in a roundabout way, you have to have confidence that you have those players and you can put them out there. And I think he's learned a little bit of that against Senegal. But you know what? He has to confirm that against Germany. One game's not enough.
Germany is going to be on par with a Portugal or a Belgium, that type of level of team. And there was something that the U.S. men's national team immensely lacked in those games. Maturity. They were very naive. There were moments where they took it to a team like Belgium. The first 15, 20 minutes were very good. On the front foot, how dynamic they were, but they left themselves so exposed. You can't leave yourself exposed with a team like Germany. I want to see them learn, because even though they played well against Senegal, Senegal had it very easily. Both goals were very preventable, and they forced the U.S. men's national team into individual errors. So I want to see them not be naive. Even though it's 45 minutes, show us who you are.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to the Mexican national team. They will play in a few minutes their last